Everybody, welcome back to the show. So glad you're here. Happy New Year. Happy New Year to you, and I hope you had a great weekend and had a great Monday. I had a great Monday, and I'm having a great 2023. I almost said 2022. I got to remember that it is a new year. Well, welcome to our show tonight. You know, recently we watched as Damar Hamlin went down on the field, and the world stopped and paid attention. And today we're excited because he was released, and we're so glad that we have with us a very special guest who's going to talk to us about his story and talk to us about heart disease, talk about this particular condition that Damar Hamlin had. If you are new to me, I'm Dr. Dwayne Wood. That's Wood with an E. The E stands for endocrinology. Here on the channel, I educate, I empower, I encourage. I want you to take charge of your health, take charge of your life, avoid complications, and create. Remember, we are creating the life we always wanted. We're going to the next level. Also, if you're new to me, go ahead and put new in the comments because I'd love to give you a hand clap and some music. And just welcome you to the neighborhood. If you have questions as we go throughout the night, go ahead and put a Q in the comments so that I know that that's a question that I've got to go and get to so that we can answer as we go throughout the night. If you're there, go ahead and give us a shout out, give us a thumbs up. If you are watching on any of the other platforms, I think we're out on Facebook right now. Go ahead and send this to your friends, send this to your family, let them know that we are here. This is an exciting story. I'm very excited about the outcome so far, and we're going to spend some time talking about that. If you've not already done so, you've got to go back and you've got to watch the stuff that we've done over the last couple of months. Let me go ahead and see if I can pull that up. So that is my channel, right? So you want to make sure that you go back and you want to watch. Remember in November, we did about 24, 25 videos on diabetes. So Diabetes 101, that's our series that we did. And then last month, we spent time, if you remember with Vlogmas, we spent time talking to some amazing people about a bunch of different topics. We talked about, how to care for the newborn with Dr. Emike Obidi, right? We talked with Keely Dunn about how to build an online community. We talked to Dr. Brittany Scott about how to create diversity, equity, and inclusion in your organization. So we had a great time talking last month. So make sure that you go back and look at those. And then, of course, we had India Delgado. We had Kirk Nugent. We had Dr. Ruby Lathan. We had Dr. Raynon Andrews, and so on and on and on and on and on. So make sure that you are getting back over and then you are watching all those things that we have. Well, this month is going to be an amazing month starting with tonight. And I've got an amazing person who's coming up with me tonight, Dr. Warren Strickland. Dr. Warren Strickland is a cardiologist here in town. And we were just actually talking about some other things he did. And I already told him that he's coming back to the show. But I'm just going to bring him up and so we can get this conversation started. Dr. Strickland, thank you for being with us. We are so glad that you're here tonight.
Dr. Wood, it has been a pleasure. Dr. Wood, it's been a pleasure and an honor to come on your show. A lot of my patients rave about your show. So to actually be, one of your guests, it's quite an honor. Thank you for the invitation.
Well, glad to be here. Glad to be here, man. And it back at you. When I see patients that we have in common, they can't sing your praises enough. They are just so excited to have you as their cardiologist. Well, so we're gonna talk about a bunch of this stuff tonight. But why don't we go ahead and do this? Why don't you take a moment and just tell the folks who Dr. Warren Strickland is? Why don't you do that for me real quick?
Yeah, sure. Well, I'm an interventional cardiologist. I've been here in Huntsville actually since 1996. And originally I grew up in Arkansas and was recruited here to actually help jumpstart the interventional program here. I was chief of cardiology at Huntsville Hospital for 9 or 10 years, really helped develop that program and bring some of the latest technology. Now most of my practice is basically in risk factor modifications for cardiovascular disease. I still do quite a bit of work in the cath lab in the interventional arena, but most of it is very similar to what you doing yourself, Dwayne. It's just a identifying patients with high blood pressure, with diabetes, getting them uh, uh, to the right endocrinologist, discussing other risk factors such as cigarette smoking, identifying coronary artery disease, and addressing it. Sometimes it takes, intervention to fix the problem. Um, I spent about 45 days in my office seeing patients. On Wednesdays, I have dedicated that to doing interventional procedures. Do a whole host of procedures, from fixing holes in the heart, fixing blood vessels, fixing, basically work on most arteries and veins in the body. Not only the heart, but most of the veins and blood vessels in the body. I have done some type of intervention. So it's a great profession.
I love that. I love that. Now, you said something there that I don't think a lot of people realize. You said that you work on the heart, but you also work on vessels elsewhere, right?
Yeah. Yeah. For instance, patients with kidney blockages, we identify what we refer to as renal artery stenosis, blockages in the arms, blockages in the legs. We do valve surgeries, aortic valve surgeries. Now the great majority of aortic valve, and that's the big door that lets the blood out of the heart. Up until 10 or 15 years ago, the only option was open heart surgery, to actually open the chest to replace those valves. Now we go through the legs and are able to do that procedure, which normally would take 2 to 3 hours. Usually it's about an hour. And probably 75 to 80% of the patients instead of being in the hospital recovering from an open procedure for 7 or 8 days, you're home the next day. As a matter of fact, about a month ago, I did a patient with aortic valve stenosis. That's what it's normally referred to. She came in on a Wednesday. We replaced her valve that morning. She went home on Thursday. She was in church on Sunday. She was 85 years old. Yeah. So the technology has really evolved over the last 10 years. It's just not many days that Dr. Wood, that I am not looking forward to coming to work. It's just a great profession.
That's amazing, amazing. And the heart is such an important organ in the body, and I like to say that the endocrine system is the most important, but I have to admit that if we didn't have the heart, then my hormones couldn't get anywhere, right?
That's exactly right. It pumps all of your little hormones around. And, it's the spiritual center of the body as well, right?
Yeah, I guess I don't remember a whole lot of thyroids in the Bible. I guess they talk about the heart a lot. Oh, amazing, amazing. Now, so cardiology, what made you interested in cardiology? Tell us a little bit about that story.
Yeah, that's a great question. Mentors really have an impact on what course we take in life. My freshman year in medical school, I had to do a year of research, and my research was in cardiovascular physiology. And Dr. Soulsby was basically the head of my research project. And just, he was such a great mentor, such a great teacher. And he just, basically ignited that fire in cardiovascular medicine. And I knew from my freshman year that that's the road that I wanted to take.
Wow. So you knew early on in your career, per se, that's what you were heading.
Very, very early. Yeah. I felt that was my destiny.
Well, so there's a lot that we can talk about the heart. And for me, whenever I talk to my patients, I tell them that diabetes predisposes them to heart disease. We know that heart disease is one of the leading causes of death in the United States. And when we were talking about COVID, right? So it all kind of ties together. It was one of those things that was listed as, putting people at higher risk. Tell us a little bit about heart disease and how things have changed other than the technology. Are we getting better at treating heart disease, or is heart disease growing? What's happening in that space?
Well, as far as if you look at let's go look at heart attacks. If you look at the mortality from heart attacks, we've had a huge impact. Let's say 30 years ago, if someone presented to the hospital, actually when we were in medical school, with a heart attack, we did not have a lot of options. Basically, we put them in the coronary care unit, started them on certain drugs like nitroglycerin, and hoped that they were able to survive the insult. But now, with the pharmacological intervention.
And I think we lost Dr. Strickland there. He was talking about the problems that we see in heart disease and how things have changed, right? So things have gotten so much better as we have gotten more technology. And you heard him say there, in terms of interventional cardiology, we do things so much better. And so he told the story of this woman who came in, had a procedure, was discharged, and she was back in church that same week, right? So we're getting better and better at treating heart disease. Now, one of the things that I've always, and if you heard me speak over any length of time, one of the things that I've said, and I want you to keep this in mind, right? Now, as we have gotten further in time, years ago, people passed away, people died from infectious issues, right? So they got an infection, they didn't get the right treatment. We didn't have the right treatment for a long time. It's now that we are, with relatively recently, that we are now treating with antibiotics, antivirals, and so forth. But someone became ill and they died because of illness. And as we have done a better and better job of treating those, then now we are finding that people are dying from diseases of lifestyle. Okay, so diseases of lifestyle. So we've moved from infectious etiologies for mortality, and now it's a process of lifestyle diseases. And I think Dr. Strickland's back with us. Let's hop over there. Hey, thanks. There you go. I think we lost you there for a minute. All right. Okay. Yeah. So we were talking about the advances and the changes that we've seen in the cardiovascular space.
Yeah. So we were patients with MIs 20 years ago, 15% of them didn't leave the hospital. Now the mortality from heart attacks is around 3 to 4%. And that's because of the pharmacological advances, the interventional advances, how we treat MIs, and patient education. So there are several influences that have impact the outcome from heart disease. And what you're doing now is critically important, is educating our public on how important it is to treat these risk factors, to treat diabetes, to not smoke, to aggressively treat your lipid profile, to avoid processed foods. All those are critically important. So to answer your question, yes, there has been significant advances in treating heart disease, and which has had a huge impact on deaths and morbidity from heart attacks and other cardiovascular related illnesses and strokes.
Yeah, wow. As I talk to patients about and talk to the public about diabetes, one of the things that I think is sometimes missed for a lot of folks is that diabetes, the management of diabetes, is not just blood sugar management, right? There are, like you mentioned, lipids and all these other things, but sometimes people think, oh, my sugars are okay, I'm good.
Right, exactly. It's, one of the things that I have learned from medicine, if nothing else, that diabetes unchecked is a very, very bad disease. And you can modify a lot of other factors, but if your diabetes is not under good control, you're in for a long, rough road when it comes to strokes, heart attacks, peripheral vascular disease. But it is a very bad actor. But some of the things that we have to do, other than managing our blood sugar, we have to manage our diet, exercise, weight, check your lipids, make sure the blood pressure is under good control. All of these are important factors in treating your diabetes and decreasing your overall risk factors for strokes and heart attacks.
So when we talk about the heart, and let's heading
Sure.
towards what our conversation is going to be about. When we talk about the heart, we talk about coronary artery disease. So that's the disease of the vessels of the heart. We talk about arrhythmias, so the rhythms of the heart. Tell us a little bit, because we're going to be talking about this arrhythmia here that
Sure.
happened recently. But how should people think about the heart? Give me a couple of categories of heart diseases. When you say heart disease, it's not all the same thing.
No. So you can have disease that primarily affects the heart muscle itself. And there are a lot of other factors that you can have a primary injury to the heart muscle. The arteries or the blood supply can be adequate to the heart muscle, but let's say you have a toxin such as alcohol that affects the heart muscle and can lead to congestive heart failure. Or you can have blockages of the heart arteries themselves, or atherosclerosis, and that's what we're mostly familiar with. And atherosclerosis is usually a result of unmodified risk factors, not treating your blood pressure, your diabetes is out of control. You have a bad diet, you don't exercise. And then you can have rhythm problems. And basically, Damar Hamlin, that's what he experienced, an electrical problem to the conduction system of the heart. So the electrical system is critically important because that basically is what controls the contractility or the squeeze of the heart muscle. So there are certain categories that when we refer to heart disease, it can fall in any one of those categories. It can be a primary damage to the muscle. It can be a problem with the blood supply to the heart muscle, or it can be a rhythm problem.
Right. Okay. So as you're out there, folks, as you're listening, remember it's a heart disease. And typically, Dr. Strickland is right. When we talk about heart disease, a lot of times we're talking about the atherosclerosis and the things that occur from modifiable risk factors like weight and lipids and hypertension and diabetes and so forth. But there are several other categories of diseases of the heart. And so we're going to pivot here in just a minute to talk about what specifically happened with Damar Hamlin. Once again, if you guys are out there, please make sure that you give us a thumbs up. Make sure that you like and subscribe. Let your folks know that we are here and that we are educating, empowering, and encouraging you to take charge of your health, take charge of your life, avoid complications, and go to the next level. Well, Dr. Strickland, let's pivot. Let me pull up for us this video. Hopefully I have this video queued up right, but that's okay. And so guys, as you're listening, you're not going to hear the sound. You're just going to see the video. And most of you have already probably seen it or heard about it. So Damar Hamlin is a safety for the Buffalo Bills. And so they were playing a game and he made a tackle. And actually, when I look back at the tackle, it didn't look that bad, but we'll talk a little bit more about it. Let's go ahead and play that real quick, and then we'll come back and talk, Dr. Strickland. Here we go. And so there's the tackle. That's number 3 for everybody, number 3. And you see him go down there. So, and I think we're going to see a different view of that again. Actually, let me pop back here and then let's play that again. All right, and you'll see number 3 right there. So he gets up and then he goes down, right?
Exactly.
And we're gonna pause here for a minute. Well, actually, let me do this. Let me play it a little bit longer. And so everyone's coming around. And it looks like almost immediately they realize that there's something more than just a casual thing going on. Okay, so everybody's around. The players stop. All right, so let's come back to Dr. Strickland. So Dr. Strickland, before we get to specifically what happened to Damar, all right, tell us a little bit more about the electrical activity of the heart. How does that work?
Well, there is a specific pathway uh, that the electrical conduction transfers to the heart. It normally starts up in the upper chambers, literally in the right atrium, and there's an SA node. It fires a little impulse that comes down through the Purkinje fibers and spreads into the left and right ventricle. And this electrical impulse really coordinates the contractility of the heart. As long as that electrical activity remains synchronized, there is no problem. But anything that interferes with that, it interferes with the contractility of the heart. And that's what we experienced with Damar Hamlin. Basically, he experienced an excellent example of what we refer to as sudden death. Sudden death is when there's sudden insult to the heart that impacts the ability of it to pump blood. In this case, he had a rhythmic disturbance, and it's referred to as commotio cordis, which is pretty rare. And it's a term now that's, since Damar Hamlin is fairly a household term, everyone has heard of it, but it's only about 200 cases that have ever been reported in the US. And it's normally in young males, athletic males, and it's not traumatic. It's not a traumatic injury to the heart. It's just basically a impact over the heart that interferes with the electrical conduction of the heart, and the heart develops a very malignant arrhythmia, and if it's not terminated, called ventricular fibrillation, that leads to death.
So well, let me stop there for a minute. So
Sure.
so what you're saying is, so the heart doesn't have to necessarily be damaged during the trauma, because when we look at this tackle, it really was not that bad. I mean, he took him down, but it wasn't like a huge hit to the chest.
Exactly. It was just at the right point during the cardiac conduction cycle that interrupted normal electrical conduction to the heart, and he developed this malignant arrhythmia called ventricular fibrillation. But the definition of commotio cordis is there's no trauma. If there's trauma, let's say from a stern wheel in a motor vehicle accident to the heart, then that's a totally different problem. This is electrical, and it's just that traumatic impact was just at the right point during the conduction cycle that it interfered with the normal rhythmic contraction of the heart. You develop VFib, and then the heart just kind of quivers in. Mm-hmm. It's not that contractility, that squeeze that we normally see. It's just a quiver. There's no forward blood flow to the brain and to the rest of the body, and the victim collapses.
Right. So usually the heart is pumping. Poof, poof.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's that pumping process that expels blood from the chamber, that sends it throughout the circulatory system to take oxygen to where we need to be, and then it comes back to get oxygen again from the lungs.
Right. And with ventricular fibrillation, this is what you get. It's not this.
So basically, it doesn't allow the heart to, I guess, kind of fill and just pump. It's just kind of quivering, and so you're really not getting any blood out.
No effective forward blood movement. Exactly.
Right.
And if that rhythm is not terminated fairly quickly, then it leads to death.
Wow. So and let's go back to the video for a minute, and let's take a look, and let's assume that you were watching this video or watching this game. Does it say anything to you that he got up and then fell back?
Well, the way he went down, you knew that it was pretty traumatic, that something catastrophic had happened. And it's not unusual, even with ventricular fibrillation, ventricular tachycardia. It takes a few seconds before you develop any symptoms. So the fact, probably immediately after the hit, he developed ventricular fibrillation. But still, it took a few seconds for the blood pressure to drop, for him to experience loss of consciousness.
Okay, so he got up, and then the arrhythmia took over, and then he passed out because the blood flow.
The blood pressure plummeted from ventricular fibrillation because there's no forward movement of blood volume. Blood pressure falls, and he passes out.
Wow. Now
he's defibrillated right there. Bam.
Okay. Now in this instance, right? So we see them come over. The doctors are attending to him, and they said they did 9 minutes worth. I think as if I read correctly, they did 9 minutes worth of CPR there on the field, and then took him off. That's a long time.
That is a very long time because Damar Hamlin was in extremely good physical condition, but even with that, normally with no effective oxygen to the brain for 6 minutes, you have irreversible brain damage. So that was my biggest concern, was the CPR adequate enough to maintain or to prevent irreversible brain damage? And the mortality from this problem is usually pretty high. Comorbidus cordis has a mortality around 80 to 90%. And the more comorbidities we have, let's say it was an older person that was 50 or 60 years old, had something like this happen. He had diabetes, he had high blood pressure, he had other associated risk factors, probably would not have survived it. The reason why he walked out of the hospital, because this guy was in extremely good physical condition.
Wow. He's I think they said he's 24. Is that right? Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, 24. So let's talk about a couple of things. In our profession, everybody around us knows CPR, and we go through those CPR. We've got to get those things checked off, right? Did you do your recertification and so forth? How important is it to get to someone when something like this happens, like soon?
It's critically important. And you really have to give the EMTs, a lot of credit, because they identify the problem very quickly, started CPR immediately, and as soon as a external defibrillator was available, which really is a treatment of choice, electrical shock was applied to the chest and reestablished a normal effective rhythm. But whenever, and that's why training the lay persons, the importance of CPR is critically important, because the quicker you can get to that down patient who experienced sudden cardiac death, start CPR, survival goes up tremendously.
Right. Now years ago, as when I started training, they would teach us chest compressions and breathing and so forth. But they've kind of really gotten away from that. I mean, if you got a lot of folks there, then you go through that. But so everybody understands, getting those compressions going, right, is very important, because that's where the blood is flowing.
Critically important. And calling for help to get an external defibrillator there as quickly as possible. That's, interrupting that, getting help here, and reestablishing rhythm. But yeah, you want to start CPR as soon as possible, get help, get an AED, hook it up, identify if that is a problem, and deliver the shot to get the patient back into a normal rhythm. Right.
And so what I love now is, and everybody's probably used to seeing on TV where they say, charge the paddles, right? And you pop the guy. That's what everybody's used to. But we've gotten, so much technology that has been advanced, where you place those pads and you hit the button and the machine basically talks to you and helps you.
It walks you through it one step at a time. Exactly. Yeah.
Right. So I love that. And I'm very much amazed but excited that we have now placed AEDs in our communities and in our gathering places, and because it is so important to get that going as soon as possible.
Yeah, Dwayne, I think we all realize how important it is and a problem that we experience with Hamlin to have that technology available. That's why it's in churches, it's in restaurants, it's in all doctors' offices. Most public places will have an AED.
Yeah, yeah. And so, going back to this to the video, when he's hit, I mean, looking at this, could this have been any other kind of trauma that caused him to go down?
Um, as you mentioned earlier, it didn't. The tackle wasn't that impressive, but of course, the hit could have resulted in a ruptured cerebral aneurysm or brain aneurysm. He could have bled from that. I don't think it was traumatic enough to tear his aorta. But of course, you hear in motor vehicle accidents where there's a significant deceleration injury where you can, tear the big vessel that comes off the heart and have sudden death. But when I saw it, that was that hit. That was the first thing I thought of was this commodus cordis that was responsible for his collapse. The very
Wow.
first thing. Yeah.
Well, that's why you're the cardiologist.
Well, yeah. And normally it's seen in baseball. It's a round blunt object that hits someone just right over the heart and they go down. You've seen it with hockey pucks, but usually they're spherical objects that hit right over the heart that are responsible for it. Very seldom it's like a soccer ball or basketball. It's unusual for that to cause it. It's usually like a hockey puck, a tackle, some blunt force to the chest wall. Usually it's pretty small. Baseball is very, very common. The great majority of them have been from baseball.
Wow. Well, let's hop over. I think I see some people in the chat. So Grace says, "Good evening, Dr. Wood and Dr. Strickland. Glad to be here listening to something very interesting and informative." Hey, Grace, thanks for coming through and hanging out with us. And then my man, David Hunt, thanks for coming through. David says, "What's up, Doc?" Hey, wait a minute. Why can't I get you on the screen here, David? There you go. What's up? So David is Dr. Strickland. David is the internet's resident musician. So he's got music all over the internet. So David, thanks for popping through and saying hello. David. Glad that you guys are over here. Yeah. Well, so let's go back to a couple of things, right? So I want to talk. So Damar Hamlin, he went down. They did the CPR. They did 9 minutes. They intubated him. And he was in the hospital, and the world paused. The world paused because everybody was praying. Everybody was interested. In fact, I think they say that his charity, which prior to this accident was like 200 and something thousand, is now at 7 million. Right? So amazing. So the outpouring of affection and love and so forth. But for a long time, we didn't know what was going on with Damar Hamlin. What do you think? Talk about that for a minute. So he went down, we did CPR, we got him, got his heart started again. We intubated him and we sent him off to the hospital. He's in this room. What's going on in the minds of those cardiologists, you think, as they're kind of taking care of this young man?
Well, I think the biggest concern, Dr. Wood, as we had talked earlier, was he neurologically intact? A lot of these patients who experience sudden cardiac death, they will bounce back. But what really determines the outcome is the brain function. The lungs may come back, get them off the breathing machine, kidneys start working again, everything works. But if the brain doesn't work, that really ultimately determines the recovery. Once the physicians that were taking care of Damar said that he was moving everything. He was responding to verbal stimuli. They extubated, he was talking. I felt that his recovery at that point would be 100%. Because again, he was a young kid who had really no comorbidities, excellent physical condition. The rest of his, organ systems, I felt, would bounce right back, and they did. And he's walked out of the hospital today, neurologically intact. That's what's critically important.
Yeah, that has been the excitement that as I've been watching the news and hearing people talk about him, that has been the excitement that he actually was functional. In fact, when they extubated him, he reportedly wrote on a piece of paper, "Who won the game?" That was his first question. Who won the game? Who won the game? And so he FaceTimed his team. Is my understanding, as I'm kind of watching the different news outlets, he FaceTimed his team. One of the I forgot, of course, as soon as I said that, his name went off my head. The guy that he tackled, he was concerned for Damar because of the collision that they had, and so he was okay. Let's make sure he's okay. Let's make sure he's okay. And reportedly, I think his mom called Damar. So if I'm getting that story right, so this is really, because you said 82% mortality?
Yeah, only about 10 to 15% of patients survive it. And you have to give the emergency personnel, they identify the problem and they jump right on it. That's what ultimately determined his prognosis and his rapid recovery, because it was a professional team, identified the problem, started CPR, reestablish, sinus rhythm or normal conduction system in the heart. All of that was critically important because it's every second counts.
Right. So Rod Crum, thanks Rod Rod said it was Higgins that he tackled. So thanks for putting that in there. And so it seems like he has had a miraculous recovery, because when we think about the mortality of it, when we think of the length of time that he was supposedly down, that they worked on him before they got him back, all of that would presuppose a worse prognosis. But here he is today, up, talking, interacting, laughing, seems to have all of his faculties. And so that brings us to one of the questions that comes up from Rod. And Rod says, "Good evening. Do you think he will be able to play football again?"
I do. So this is the next step. We just have to make sure that this was strictly an electrical event. There are other causes of sudden death in young athletes. And the most common one we hear about in Black athletes is hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. Now, if it turns out that he has a hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, or if he has an abnormal heart artery, or he has what we refer to as right ventricular dysplasia, there's a problem with the heart itself? No. But if this turns out that this was strictly just an electrical event, there is a real good chance that he will go back and will be able to play. As a matter of fact, there was a hockey player, you may have saw this on television, I can't call his name, had the same thing happen, hit with a hockey puck, experienced sudden death, hospitalized, went out. 6 or 7 months he's playing hockey again. He's in the Hall of Fame. He went on to have a Hall of Fame career. So yeah, I think there's a real good chance, particularly as rapidly as he bounced back, that he could be on the football field. And is there a chance that this could happen again? Probably the chances of this happening to him again, if he has a structurally normal heart and it's just an electrical event, it's no different than it happening to you and I if we were placed in that same situation.
Wow, yeah. And David Hunt had that same question. Do you think he will play again? Now, I'll tell you, there are mothers around the country right now who have seen this, and they are concerned for their sons, because we said males who are younger, children, What do you say to those moms who say, "Wait a minute, this is
Well,
lethal"?
yeah, our kids are surrounded by threats, and we get in one every day, and that's an automobile, right? That's the chances of guns, another big threat. Um, would I tell my kid not to be involved in sports because there's a 1 in a million chance that something like that could happen? No, I think we should keep our kids involved in athletics. They should continue to play baseball, play football. Uh, you know, it's just a very, very rare event. Just think of how many much more vicious tackles we've seen than that, and players get up and you know shake it off and ready for the next play. So no, I don't think this is a reason to keep your child away from athletics or off the field. Absolutely not.
All right, so that's good to know. That's good to know. And Rod says that's good news, and I think he's responding to the idea that if there's nothing else going on, then definitely, definitely, he probably will play again.
Yeah,
Now you mentioned,
he'll have a real thorough workup. Look
Mhm.
for other causes. Again, does he have a blockage in a heart artery, which is very unlikely? Does he have an anonymous heart artery that's taken an abnormal route that caused that? Or does he have a primary problem with the heart muscle? If all of that checks out, he has a structurally normal heart, it was just an electrical problem, I would not be surprised if next year he's on the field.
oh wow, I love it, love it. Now you did mention something, hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. Can you take a minute to talk to us a little bit about that?
Sure. Uh, Hank Gathers, I don't know if you remember from, I think it was Miramount, the basketball player who basically experienced sudden death out on the floor. Well, he had a much more common problem, which is a hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. And a hypertrophic cardiomyopathy is when the heart muscle is incredibly thick. And in certain situations, because of that thick heart muscle, you would think that it would be more efficient in pumping blood, but actually it's not. But you get obstruction, blood cannot exit the heart valve, and you can experience sudden death. The problem uh, with that situation with the basketball player with Gathers is that, if I'm not mistaken, I don't think there was an AED in that building. And although he experienced ventricular fibrillation, it wasn't terminated, and as a result, uh, he did not survive that insult. But it's very, very common. Hypertrophic cardiomyopathy and that's something that all elite athletes, college athletes, particularly black athletes, are normally screened for. And if they have it, and if it's severe, the recommendation is that they probably should not be involved in extreme sporting activities.
Yeah, I remember when we did peds, we would do those exams, and
Right.
we'd have to sign off the forms and so forth. So it was something always present of mine that for us to look for. And as physicians are doing that around the country, we are in the sports era, right? So everybody's playing sports,
Exactly.
all kinds of sports. It is something that I'm sure that everybody is mindful of. Um, in the so here we are. So we've moved out. We've got him. He's back home. He's on with a different group of physicians now because his team has changed because he's out of the hospital. Um, they're going to work him up. They're going to look for all these different things. Maybe he gets on the field. Maybe he doesn't get back on the field. Um, the outpouring of concern that everybody saw. They stopped the game. Everybody was on their knees. That amazed me.
I haven't seen anything like that in professional sports, to tell you the truth. It was pretty amazing.
Yeah, yeah.
Pretty amazing.
Um, and my hat's off to anybody out there who's watching this now. And I think there's this question: is are they going to keep playing the game? And the sentiment was, hey, let's make sure Damar is good. the game's going to be there, but let's make sure that this young man is getting better, that, and the outpouring of love and signs and money, right? People putting their money where their affections are. So thank you all for all of that you continue to do. Wow. Well,
And
Doc,
the NFL
any
stepped up. The
I'm sorry?
NFL stepped up, Dwayne. They said they're going to continue to make sure he gets his salary. There's no interruption in his pay as a result. So, and the way they handle that, it's hats off to them.
Right. Yeah. No, I was talking. I think Rod and I were talking recently, actually just this weekend, about that whole thing and how they kind of made the decision to basically stop the game. But yeah, so I love that. Let's see. We got a message there, a question from David Hunt. He said, "What's the timeline for recovery for an injury like this?"
So let's say he has a complete workup. Everything is negative. I would say in 6 months, he probably could start. Now, this is, no one has a huge experience with this. It's so rare. But if he has a complete cardiovascular evaluation, everything checks out, I would say in 6 months that he can start back, training. And again, I would not be surprised if he's not on the field next year.
Right. And once again, I guess let's keep making that point.
And he'll get the MVP of the Super Bowl.
I know. That he is in good condition. Everything that was available for his recovery. I mean, they had the AED, they started the CPR, they got him to the hospital, they protected his airway, a good team of doctors. Everything has kind of walked in the right direction. Him actually being able to walk out of the hospital, having all his mental faculties, and I know I keep going through that list, but that's the list really that's going to predict where he ends up and how he goes.
Oh yeah, he's going to do well. He's, I would predict 100% recovery for him.
Awesome. Well, Doc, I am so excited that you were here. I mean, this has been a good conversation, and like I told you before we got on air, there are some other things that we want to talk about, and bring you back and just kind of get to know you a little bit in all aspects of what you do. So thank you for being here. Thank you for spending time. Thank you for your insights in this case.
Well, Dwayne, it's been a pleasure. Thanks for the invitation, and I'm certainly, looking forward to coming back and talking with you and your audience.
Awesome.
We certainly appreciate everything that you are doing in educating my patients.
Well, thank you so much. All right, why don't you hang out for a minute? We're going to close out, and then we'll chat for a minute, okay? All right. So, guys, woo! Wow, Damar Hamlin. So glad that Dr. Strickland was here with us to share that information about this. And next month is Heart Awareness Month. And I thought, hey, we're going to talk about it then, but I said no. This is something that I think is important. So glad that we were able to do that with Dr. Strickland. Let's go over now and let's do our thought of the day. All right. So as we get into, as we get in 2023 and beyond, we are talking about success. We're talking about creating the life we want. And our thought for today is this: Are you creating places? Are you creating things? Are you taking the time to evaluate to see where there are ideas in your life that will push you to higher heights? Let me say that again. Are you taking time in your life to create ideas that will push you into success? What do I mean by that? As I have gone through 2022, I want to tell you that my brain, my mind now is so open and so attuned to places around me and things around me that are opportunities for success. It's open to things that I probably have seen around me all the time that I didn't think were places that or things that I can use to take me to higher heights. My talents, my experiences, the certifications I have, the things that I've learned as I've gone through medical school, the characteristics, the skills that I've learned, all of those are marketable skills. All of those are skills that can help me improve myself. All of those that are skills that I can use to improve my community. All of those are skills that I can use to enrich my life and the life of my family. So are you creating ideas? Are you looking around you? Are you saying, hey, here are some things that I do? I mean, whether you you got a green thumb, okay? Whether you are able to play music, like we got David Hunt in the chat. Whether you are able to build something, can you paint? Are you a good plumber, a good carpenter? Are you someone who's good at electrical systems, right? Are you a good repair person? Are you a good writer? Have you learned how to do some accounting? All right. Can you drive? Uber. So all around us, there are opportunities for us to use the skills, use the things we've learned, and to enrich. And I talked about enriching ourselves, but also enriching the community, right? And yes, I'm talking money, but it does not have to be money. It doesn't have to be finances. There are so many opportunities for the skills that we have to bring value to someone in our circle, in our sphere. So my question to you is, are you creating ideas? Are you looking for ideas? Are you using the ideas that are around you to propel yourself into success? And that is our thought for today. All right. And let's hop over and let's do our amazing question wheel. Our amazing question wheel. Here we go. Okay. Let's see what happened to our amazing question wheel. All right. Well, you see the question wheel on the screen. All right. That's what happens at live, right? So you see the question wheel on the screen. And so what we're going to do is we're going to spin that wheel round and round and round it goes. Where it stops, I'm not going to know. And let's see which question we stop on. What I'm going to do is once I answer that question, I'm going to clip that out and I'm going to use that to create a reel. I'm going to use it to create a reel, a short, whatever it's called on those different platforms. And we're going to post it. And what I want you to do is go and find it on those platforms. And let me pop over here. Right. See, right. Well, it's on this side now. So right under my name, Dwayne Wood MD. So Dwayne Wood MD right there. Right. Dwayne Wood MD. You can find me on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, all of those social media platforms. Go ahead and find it. And then I want you to put in the comments, hashtag I was there. So hashtag I was there to let us know that you were there. Actually, here it is. Right. This is what's supposed to happen. Let's do that. So there you go. Whew. Yeah, I moved my Stream Deck around. I'm going to have to do a behind the scenes so you guys can see this, what's going on here. But I moved my Stream Deck around, and so my buttons are different places. All right, so let's spin it and let's see what we have. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. Round and round and round it goes. Where it stops, I don't know. Here's a good one. Should I write or dictate my journal? Should I write and dictate my journal? That's a good question. Let's see. How do I answer that? Should I write or dictate my journal? All right, here we go. Get 45 seconds on the screen. Should I write or dictate my journal? The simple answer is it depends. There are some people who do better when they can sit and feel and touch the pen, the pencil, the paper, the pages, and things flow better. But if you have something that's on your mind and you're in the car, I would say dictate, right? Don't wait until you get out of the car, right? So just grab your phone, it's right there. Or you can actually, you know what? Don't grab your phone. You can have a little a dictaphone that you take with you, and you can use that to dictate. So it depends on what's going on at the time. And I think, yes. All right. So there we are, right? So that's the answer. Oh, and it popped back up with this. Here we go. All right. So should I write or dictate my journal? All right. There we are. So guys, thank you once again. And I see Florence. Florence, let me get your comment up here. She says, great discussion from Dr. Wood and Dr. Strickland. Thank you for sharing your knowledge to us. Thank you, Florence, for coming through and hanging out with us. And Grace and David and Rod and Florence, thank you guys for being here. Just amazing. One thing that I do want to remind you of is don't forget that we do have on our website. So if you go to Dwayne Wood MD, right, you will be able to see, and let me pop this one over here. There we go. Here we go. You'll be able to see our free offering, right? The free 7 Keys to Success ebook. And if you click on that, then that will give you the opportunity to download this, and it is for free. So learn how successful people create the life they want. Learn how successful people create the life they want. So make sure that you get over there and also share that with your family, share that with your friends. This is the month of January, everybody. What month is it? That's right, the month of January, and we are in 2023. We've got some exciting, interesting things that are going to be coming up as we get into the year. So make sure that you like, you subscribe, and that you share all the information that we have here on the channel. I love educating. I love empowering. I love encouraging people. And that's what I do here on the channel. If you've not already done so, go ahead and log in to your YouTube account. Create an account if you don't have one. It is free. Then hit the subscribe button and also hit the notification bell so that you will be notified when we go live and when we put new videos up. Thank you for being here. I'm excited that you're here. Come on back next week for our next show. And during the week, let me go back over there. Okay, wait a minute. On our website, and let me get back to our website. If you go to our website, which is, I think this one, there we go. If you go to our website, Dwayne Wood MD, right, and up here, if you click on my blog, right, so we've got some blogs that we're doing, right, so we've got a couple of things up there, and if you go to our homepage and scroll down, you will see our very new, our podcast. And you will see some exciting new things over there. Make sure you get over there and subscribe. It's called Do You Know? The Do You Know podcast. Do You Know with Dr. Dwayne Wood. Do You Know with Dr. Dwayne Wood. Make sure you get over there and begin downloading that. And then also make sure that you keep up with our blog. And we're growing that. We've got some stuff that's going to be coming out on a weekly basis. So very excited about those new things that we have, because I always want to provide value, to you. If there are things that you want us to talk about, and let me come back to this big screen. If there are things you want me to talk about, drop me a note. drop me a message on any one of our social media platforms. Once again, under my name right there, Dwayne Wood MD, on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, any of those, and we once again will respond to them. So once again, guys, thank you for coming through. Thank you for being here, everybody. Good night, and we'll see you at the next video.